Adulation and protest for President Clinton, who vows a strong and continued partnership. And court told of Martin Bryant's personality disorder as videos show the Port Arthur horror.
From National 9 News, this is Nightline with Jim Waley.
Good evening. President Bill Clinton in Canberra today set about clearing up issues which have rubbed a few sore spots in relations between Australia and the United States. He expressed confidence that some thorny trade problems would soon be resolved and reconfirmed American commitment to the Asia-Pacific region. In Sydney tonight, peace activists tried to disrupt the Clintons' harbour cruise, but otherwise it was a day of kind words. Laurie Wilson has our report.
The President of the United States of America.
The welcome was warm, the applause spontaneous, as President Clinton rose to address the joint meeting of the two houses of Parliament, in the process reaffirming the close ties between the two countries.
Together we carried liberty's torch in the darkest nights of the 20th century. For Australia's strength and sacrifice through these many struggles, for your fierce love of liberty and your unfailing friendship to the United States, the American people, thank you.
There was thanks as well for Australia's role in pressing for a ban on nuclear weapons testing.
Every single Australian should be very proud of the role your country has played in guiding the world toward a more secure future. Your determined diplomacy brought the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty to reality.
The President used his speech to reassure Australia of America's commitment to the Asia-Pacific region and to continuing close defence ties.
The defence links between the United States and Australia have never been stronger in peacetime. Our alliance is not just for this time, it is for all time.
And he said one of the challenges of the next century would be to deal with racial and religious hatred.
We must stand against that, and the example of how we live together must be a rebuke to that in the 21st century.
Earlier, the two leaders got down to some serious discussion about a number of niggling trade problems between Australia and the US. The talks went over time as they discussed everything from golf to the damaging impact of American subsidies for agricultural exports.
We are going to do everything we can to make sure that any future use of these programs is not either directly or indirectly working to the disadvantage of a country that is innocent of any wrongdoing, in this case, Australia.
Mr. Clinton also said the present row over Australian leather exports to the US was close to being resolved. All in all, it left the Prime Minister obviously feeling pleased.
To you, Mr. President, again, publicly, my very warm welcome. You are here as a very welcome guest and with the goodwill of all of the Australian people.
The business side of the trip over, the Clintons returned to Sydney early evening. The main route into the city from the airport was sealed, 19 intersections blocked, causing peak time traffic jams. The Clinton caravan rolled on through. Again, the crowds came out. All the time, security tracking the president's every move. And then, after such a hectic day, the Clintons returned to the Intercontinental to freshen up before heading out on their harbour cruise. While they readied, the Opera House was clean sweep. The Howards escorted the Clintons to the boat. Sydney turned on the lights, but it wasn't going to be smooth sailing. Peace activists broke through the steel wall of security.
Close the nuclear bases, no more ship visits, no more nuclear armed imperial ships coming to Australia.
Two inflatables sped towards the president's cruising catamaran. They were swamped by 10 police and Secret Service boats. The protesters scrambled. Their point made, the peace squadron gave up. No one was arrested. The action was kept 100 metres from the American and Australian first couples, their moonlight cruise unaffected. The Clintons stay in Sydney most of tomorrow, flying to Port Douglas in the evening. Michael Usher for Nightline.
And later in Nightline, we'll have Paul Lynham's perspective on the President's Day. Even today, as Martin Bryant accepted that he faces jail for the rest of his life, he still played one final game. He's refused to say why at Port Arthur in April he committed the worst mass killing in Australian history. But his defence team told how Bryant, although not medically insane, suffers a personality disorder. From Hobart, Hugh Remington reports.
If there were fresh revelations about Martin Bryant's character today, the central mystery of why remains intact. Bryant wants it that way, specifically instructing his barrister John Avery to offer no reasons for his actions. Nothing I can say, said Mr. Avery, can mitigate the outrageous nature of his conduct. Tourist videotape shown to the court shows Bryant clearly in action. Another tape shows the rapidity of those first volleys of shots inside the cafe. Virtually every shot, the sound of someone dying. The man who did this was revealed today as sane, but of intelligence so low as to border on disability, an IQ of 66, putting him in the bottom 2% of the population. From early childhood, he displayed a personality disorder that made him so odd, normal friendships eluded him. He was bullied at school, but was himself violent. A doctor who assessed him in 1991 said Bryant's father protects him from any upsetting situation, as Martin frequently threatens violence. Martin tells me he'd like to go round shooting people. Bryant's behaviour became increasingly bizarre. After his father's suicide, his search for a friend went global. He launched compulsive flights to every corner of the world. His favourite part, sitting down on long flights next to unsuspecting passengers who couldn't escape his attempts to be friendly. He inevitably returned home disappointed every time, his frustrations growing ever deeper.
He's obviously a person of very limited intellectual capacity, and I think he had a grudge that had borne over a fair period of time.
So, confirmation that he was an angry, lonely, isolated young man, but still no real explanation. It is now known he planned the massacre for months. He told a psychiatrist, "My power, so powerful, I could just go bang, bang, bang." But why Port Arthur, he was asked. "A lot of violence has happened there," he replied. "It must be the most violent place in Australia." It seemed the right place. The Seascape Cottage was selected as a starting point because of a family myth that its owners, David and Sally Martin, had dudded Bryant's father on a land deal. His murder weapons, Bryant says, he bought easily from a local store, where his lack of a gun licence was not a problem. The owner, he said, never got around to asking me. When you've got money, it helps. People pass things over. He repeatedly insisted in police interviews that he'd never gone to the Port Arthur site that day. When told he'd be charged with 35 murders, the police interview tape shows him clapping his hand to his mouth in delight and laughing. The defence concedes he knows what he did was wrong, but has no empathy for his victims. He revels in the notoriety he has achieved. Still, he does accept now that life imprisonment is an appropriate punishment and that he will end his days in jail. The families and survivors later applauded the prosecution.
I'm not prepared to say the round of applause was for the prosecution. I think people were just relieved.
Bryant will be formally sentenced on Friday. The result is in little doubt. From then, Martin Bryant will effectively be gone from this world. In Hobart, Hugh Remington for Nightline.
A Sydney mother of 3 has been found not guilty of murdering the 18-month-old girl she was babysitting. Linda Funk had claimed the toddler died accidentally, that she'd been playfully throwing the child in the air and failed to catch her.
Elspeth Lawson died in what the jury decided was simply a tragic accident. Babysitter Linda Funk was acquitted of her murder, rushing from court refusing to talk about her ordeal. The toddler died of massive head injuries 4 years ago, which the Crown maintained were consistent with being dropped from a multi-storey building. After deliberating for almost 2 days, the jury handed down its not guilty verdict. In the dock, Mrs. Funk burst into tears, while Elspeth's mother stormed from the court, sobbing.
We still don't know what happened to her, so really we can't put it behind us because we still don't know.
Just hope that no one else has to go through this sort of experience.
Yeah. Mrs. Funk, a mother of 3, said she'd accidentally dropped baby Elspeth at her Maroubra home after playfully tossing the child into the air. Justice John Dowd described the trial as exhausting, harrowing and emotionally distressing for all concerned. The Lawsons have issued a chilling warning to other parents.
Go for the registered childcare. Don't risk backyarders. It's just not worth it.
We've had 4 years to come to grips with her death, so, I mean, even though this has been a great disappointment...
You just have to, don't you?
There's nothing's going to bring her back.
Christine Spiteri for Nightline.
After the break, a $500,000 payout for the operation that left something behind, and Australian movie Shine wins high praise at its Hollywood premiere. "1,500 New South Wales police officers rallied in Sydney today, calling on their new Commissioner Peter Ryan to go home to England. The officers are angry at Commissioner Ryan's sweeping new powers, which allows the dismissal of police without the right of appeal. They marched on Parliament, demanding Police Minister Paul Whelan also resign. The police union announced industrial action, starting with a Work to Rule campaign. Health insurance company MBF is to increase its rates by an average of 6.5%. The rise, which will swallow some of the government's health rebate, comes into effect in February. A woman who sued her doctors after a botched hysterectomy in which a swab was left inside her has been awarded more than $500,000 in damages. Despite today's financial compensation, the woman will suffer all her life.
Heather Thompson may be almost $600,000 richer, but her life certainly is not.
The only way I could deal with it was to lie to myself that I was all right and I'd get better.
Her ordeal began 6 years ago at age 25, when GP John Warren and orthopaedic surgeon Noel Langley agreed to a hysterectomy. During the operation, a surgical swab, half the size of a tea towel, was mistakenly left in her abdomen. 10 months after the hysterectomy, the swab was removed. And after 6 further operations, Ms. Thompson is without her large bowel, rectum and part of the small bowel. Thompson's solicitor believes the case broke the doctor's code of silence.
Those members of the medical profession who saw that a wrong had been done to her and weren't prepared to accept it, weren't prepared to cover up for the others, and got on their feet and said what they thought.
Today, a 4-person civil jury found the hospital was blameless. They found minor fault with the GP, awarding the majority of damages against the surgeon. Heather Thompson ended up receiving a total of $574,500.
In the United States, 14 people have died in a runway collision between 2 small planes. A commuter aircraft with 10 passengers and 2 crew on board was landing at the town of Quincy in Illinois when it hit a small private plane at a runway intersection. Both planes burst into flames. The airport, which serves smaller planes, doesn't have a control tower. Pilots are expected to use an open radio frequency to communicate with each other. Pope John Paul has decided to visit Cuba next year following his first meeting with Fidel Castro. The pontiff also offered to help persuade the U.S. to lift trade embargoes against Cuba after Castro agreed to give his nation's Catholics greater religious freedom. Political analysts say Castro's Vatican visit was risky. The Pope's trip to then-communist Poland, an audience with Mikhail Gorbachev in 1989, was quickly followed by the fall of the Eastern Bloc. The Australian film Shine, already highly acclaimed at home, is now winning praise overseas. It had its American premiere tonight and is being tipped as a possible Oscar winner.
Hollywood is swooning over Shine, and the Aussies behind it are pinching themselves.
Yeah, well, you know, for us, poor little Australians, it's all very unusual.
The story of piano prodigy David Helfgott has dominated the American Film Festival circuit. It may have won 9 AFI awards, but now American critics are talking Oscar.
Shine is one of the better pictures of the year. Sure, he's certainly going to get a lot of nominations and should do well at the box office.
And the mere mention of Oscar is overwhelming for the lead actor, Jeffrey Rush.
I think it would be wonderful for the film to know that it got that kind of approval, that kind of accolade.
And for director Scott Hicks, an even greater accolade, Steven Spielberg has just signed him to a production deal. And at the post-premiere party, more high-profile fans for Shine.
I thought all the performances were brilliant. I thought it was one of the best films I've seen this year.
Oscar material, do you think?
Absolutely. Oh, yes, most definitely.
In Los Angeles, Nick McCallum for Nightline.
Baywatch star Pamela Anderson-Lee will soon be Pamela Sue Anderson again. The Canadian-born actress has filed for divorce from heavy metal husband Tommy Lee, citing irreconcilable differences. It was a different story when they married just 21 months ago.
We're so in love, this is crazy.
The couple will have joint custody of their 5-month-old son, Brandon. The singer, who spends a good deal of his life behind a mask, has dropped it for a short time to give an interview during his Australian tour. The Jackson juggernaut, meanwhile, has moved from Brisbane to Melbourne for a 5-day stay.
From one screaming crowd to another. Michael Jackson moved from Brisbane to Melbourne late today, with security matched only by his country's president. While the familiar mask was on for the public, he revealed more of himself in an exclusive interview with Molly Meldrum, to be seen on Hey Hey It's Saturday.
I don't relax, really. I don't sleep a lot. I like to continually, my mind never stops.
But when he does relax...
I love a good water balloon fight, or, you know, playing around, goofing off.
Jackson's performances at the Melbourne Cricket Ground on Friday and Sunday will each draw 45,000 people. But there's still no public sign of wife number 2, Debbie Rowe. Fiona Pye for Nightline.
In a moment, Paul Lynham in the footsteps of the President. President Clinton's day in the national capital proved to be much more than simply a round of official functions. It was a day of genuine warmth and friendship, all sealed with a stolen kiss. Paul Lynham's been keeping tabs.
Honourable Senators, honourable members, the President of the United States of America.
Earlier in the day, some anxious MPs had wondered whether it would offend the dignity of the Parliament if they applauded at the end of Bill Clinton's speech. Thankfully, that sort of pompous protocol vanished as soon as he entered the reps, giving way to a genuinely warm welcome. A welcome that received an equally warm response.
I know this is called the land down under, but after only a day, we all feel like we're on top of the world, and I thank you for that.
The Clintons had arrived in the Bush capital this morning to be greeted by sunny skies and by Tim Fisher, plus a security screen that left nothing to chance. But where was the President? For 7 minutes they waited. Was he taking a nap? Looking up Canberra on the Atlas? Having a haircut? Meanwhile, back at Parliament House, Kim Beazley was deploring the fact that no cameras would record his brief meeting with the President in the afternoon. Beazley blamed John Howard.
Well, I don't know whether he would really want in the can of all the television stations endless footage of me meeting Bill Clinton.
But would anybody meet Bill Clinton? Yes, thankfully, he was there after all, with Mrs. Clinton ready to join the motorcade bound for the War Memorial. The ceremony was short and simple, followed by a brief walk along the cloisters past the wall bearing the names of Australia's war dead. Out in the sunshine, another of those impromptu meet-the-people moments that make his Secret Service agents so anxious. But there was one meeting the Clintons missed out on. At Government House, the Kangaroos were staying well out of the limelight.
They told us when we go back down, look on the golf courses, there may be some. She's asking for the Kangaroos.
Oh, they're on the other side.
At Parliament House, protocol was drowned out by cheers and applause. Every vantage point in the foyer was packed solid, and every wave produced yet another cheer. It was like that all day. Despite the security and the strict timetable, the goodwill kept pouring through. It was the same at the lunch in the Great Hall.
We hope you have a delightful time. We hope you have some time off, as well as some time for work. You are very, very welcome, Mr. President and Mrs. Clinton.
Get out on the beaches, get out on the golf courses, get out snorkeling and have a terrific time here.
And as an occasional saxophone player, he seemed to love every minute of the James Morrison band too, including a bluesy version of Waltzing Matilda.
Waltzing Matilda with me.
After lunch, Mr. Clinton waltzed along to meet Mr. Beazley, only to bump into some very friendly staffers on the way. It's a tough job he's got. With no TV cameras allowed, the Beazley-Clinton meeting remains a media mystery. And that's not the only controversy. Hillary Clinton, who made a side trip to the National Gallery today, is meeting a group of Australian women in Sydney tomorrow. None of them, apparently, Labor or Democrat women.
I understand the list has been going to and fro between the Americans and our side, and with Mrs. Clinton desperately attempting to get people who really interest her, and our side insisting that she should have people who won't.
Whatever the outcome of that little tiff, the visit so far seems to be an outstanding success. Not simply because everything's gone to plan, but because the plan has been overtaken by lots of good Aussie hospitality and the obvious enjoyment of the Clintons. And if they thought Canberra was okay, just wait till they get to the Great Barrier Reef. Jim, back to you.
Thanks, Paul. Still to come on Nightline, the finance and weather. And in sport, Glenn McGrath ready to take on the Windies, Saintly ready for the Japan Cup, and the new man in charge of the Socceroos.
And I think that I can fill the bill for that, and I think that he can foot the bill for that.
To sport now, and a big boost to Australia's chances in the first test against the West Indies starting on Friday. Strike bowler Glenn McGrath will play in Brisbane after making it through a tough training session.
The all clear on McGrath's blistered heel came an hour into this morning's net session.
Yeah, it feels good. Had 2 spells bowling off the full run, and yeah, no, it's nearly back to 100%.
The spearhead of Australia's attack on a wicket that promises plenty of life. McGrath moved freely. The watchful eye of Queensland's Michael Kasperovich, a constant nearby.
All it takes is one injury and someone else come in and play well, and you know, you're fighting to get your spot back. So you know, I was pretty happy with it the way it is.
Earlier, the Windies concluded preparations on Australian time. Warne and Lara swapping tools of the trade. There's a show suggestions of improved harmony between the arch rivals is a distinct possibility.
We enjoy the company of the West Indies. Most of our guys have played a lot of cricket against the West Indies now, so they know them personally, and we'll certainly be in there mixing after the day's play.
Obviously, we played it hard in the middle. Off the field, we come off and we sit and have a drink together and crack a few jokes.
Steve Haddon for Nightline.
To rugby, and Jason Little, recovered from a leg injury, has been recalled to the Wallaby lineup for Saturday's test against Ireland in Dublin. He'll be on the wing. Tim Horan moves back to the centres. Pat Howard is relegated to the bench. George Gregan, meanwhile, has regained his halfback spot. Super League will get the jump on the ARL next year, kicking off its season on February the 28th, a fortnight ahead of the Optus Cup. The first game will pit Cronulla against Canberra. There's also a chance the Super League Grand Final will be held at Brisbane's ANZ Stadium. Otherwise, the September 20th decider will be played on the Sydney Cricket Ground. Terry Venables has made it clear he has faith that the Socceroos, under his guiding hand, can make it to the 1998 World Cup. Venables' first outing with his new team will be in Melbourne in January.
Less than 6 weeks ago, Venables was steering England towards a semi-final berth in the European Cup. Now the 53-year-old will be looking to thrust Australia into the 1998 World Cup.
And I thought to myself, well, like you all say, it's a long way. Mind it's warm in this winter and all those things. And then I'm thinking, obviously, about the team, what they can achieve, what I knew about them already, and I think that I can fill the bill for that, and I think that he can foot the bill for that.
That bill has cost Soccer Australia over $400,000 to get there, man. But the appointment of an outsider has produced mixed feelings.
There's always fors and against whatever happens, so I just go with the flow, as they say.
Very, very exciting. Very exciting. Very happy with his appointment.
Venables' first test will be against Asian heavyweight South Korea in a 4-nations tournament in January. And having to prove himself in the Japan Cup, Saintly. After initial health concerns following the gruelling 24-hour journey from Sydney, trainer Bart Cummings believes the gelding is back to his best. Saintly was the first of the foreign superstars to arrive for Sunday's $4.3 million race.
It's very similar to the track he won on in Melbourne, and he flew up very, very well. I was very pleased with his gallop.
Over 150,000 people are expected at the track. Such is the interest in this, the most important event on Japan's racing calendar. Michael Roberts for Nightline.
In finance news, higher than expected profits from the ANZ Bank, with net earnings of $1.1 billion. Meanwhile, gains in the resource sector pushed the Australian share market up 26 points today. In Tokyo, the Nikkei was up 233 points. In London tonight, the FT100 is almost 9 points down in morning trading. Gold is fetching $378.50 US an ounce. And in European trading tonight, the Australian dollar is buying 79.77 US cents, 1.19 Deutschmarks, 88 yen and 47p. For national weather, and there are cold fronts affecting the southeast. A high is moving through the Bight, while lows dominate the north. The forecast, late storms for Brisbane, fine in Darwin, fine also for Sydney, Canberra and Adelaide, some showers in Melbourne and Hobart, and for Perth it should be a fine day ahead. That's the news this Wednesday night from all of us here at Nightline. Good night.